I'm about to talk to Trent Haaga, who worked for Troma for quite a while, and Citizen Toxie was his last Troma event. He's now in a very fancy office. He's doing very, very well.
Oh, the bow tie. Hey, Lloyd.
Oh.
Hey.
Hi, Trent.
Hey.
We're going to talk about producing, okay?
Producing,
and the
absolutely.
Writer versus producer a bit.
Writer versus.
I think you have very interesting.
I produced. Sorry.
Well, of course. Now that makes. I understand.
I saw this picture of this devastatingly handsome young man, and I couldn't resist.
Well, thanks, Trent.
I couldn't resist producing, a little something when I saw that.
Hi, I'm Trent Haaga. I'm reporting live for Troma's Edge TV. Wait, no, I'm not. Actually, I'm not. I'm here. This is just flashing me back to the Troma's Edge TV days. I'm here to talk to you, Lloyd Kaufman, about producing some movies.
You had a major mainstream script that was going to have stars. Can you take us through that history?
Sure. Over the years of working with guys like you and Charlie Band and a lot of other independent filmmakers throughout the years, I developed a reputation in town as a guy who can write quickly, write cheaply, who can spell all right and can make a beginning, a middle, and an end, and can be had for pennies. I got called to a meeting with some independent producers. They were going to pay me very little money, but they needed a draft immediately. I needed to cover my mortgage that month, so I went and I wrote it and I handed it into them, and I walked away thinking that I'm never going to see this project again because I've done that plenty. It was called Poor Things, and it was a dark comedy about old women who decide to bump off homeless men for insurance money. A lot of people ended up getting involved. Giovanni Ribisi, Channing Tatum, Rosario Dawson, James Woods, a lot of A-list stars were signing on to this thing. These guys had spent very little money buying a script that had a lot of potential, and a lot of people wanted to make the movie. They were sitting there at the hotel at the Roosevelt at the pool where, people who aren't really in the movie business, they go and they sit by the pool and they take meetings.
I used to stay at the Roosevelt Hotel. It was $69. I'm surprised. I did not know that Roosevelt is now the place where a lot of bullshit happens.
The bullshit's
cool.
thick.
I can no longer afford the Roosevelt Hotel, by the way. I now stay at the Ramada Hotel.
These independent producers who really didn't have enough money to actually make the movie decided, well, we've got enough people that we can scrape together the money. One of the majors came by. They said, we love the script. We love you've got Olympia Dukakis and Shirley MacLaine attached. We will pick up the entire cost of the budget, and you, independent producer who paid $3,000 for the script, you can have 50% of the profits, and we'll also give you a producer fee, et cetera, et cetera. So if the guy would have signed that deal, at that point the movie would have been made, he would have made money, everybody would have been happy, but there's some greed and avarice involved, and if you have 3 studios coming at you and they're all saying they'll make it, most independent guys are going to go, well, I'll just to find the money myself through independent means, and then I'll get to keep 100% of it. There's absolutely guys that sit in a room somewhere and crunch numbers, and they look at Olympia Dukakis and they go, well, yeah, she is an Academy Award-winning actress, but she wants this much, and her last 10 movies have grossed this much. Can you try to get a bigger actress? So it wasn't so much that as it was the younger cast members, i.e. the Channing Tatum, the Giovanni Ribisi, and most importantly, our big ace in the hole, who was Lindsay Lohan. She was to play a part that was originally written to be another elderly woman. The idea was that Shirley MacLaine had a younger sister, and once again the numbers guys came in and they said, this is great, but what would be great is if we could turn this character into a younger person and sex her up. From a story point of view, I argued that it was illogic. Story does not get taken into consideration when you're talking about money.
These movie people are disgusting.
Yeah, Lindsay Lohan was going through all of her problems at the time. We were just a couple days away from shooting. Everybody was standing by. We were supposed to start shooting on a Monday, and on Saturday night, Lindsay got busted for DUI and cocaine possession. The budget for the movie was contingent upon her participation. The producers once again opted to try to go out and borrow more money to pay everybody to stick around and wait 28 days for her to get out of rehab. The movie ended up costing more than the last probably 5 or 6 or 12 Troma productions, and there was not one scene shot.
So what is the big lesson to come away with for a young would-be producer?
Which this guy was. He wasn't necessarily young. He was a successful businessman, but he had never produced anything. And, right now he could have a little bit of money in his pocket and he can have a producer credit. But that wasn't necessarily what he was in it for. He wanted to make $1 billion. I think that if you want to be a producer, fundamentally you've got to produce.
If we're shooting something, have everything there. If it's costumes, they're there. Props, they're there. Whatever it is, try to think ahead and have it there. You guys should be ahead of the game. Please be ahead of the game. Same with the actors. This AD department should have the bloody actors here.
Okay. And what's interesting about being a producer is it's, in many ways, it's like being a director. You can make it as little or as much as you want to. Having everything ready so that your director and your actors can walk on a set and there's tapes and there's camera and there's a sound guy and he's got tapes and he's got batteries and you've got food standing by and you know when lunch is, you know what needs to be shot, when you're how much time you have to shoot that, when you're going to move into the next scene, whether or not you feel like you've finished this scene or not. Everything from props to costumes to bathrooms to food, you know, everything has to be standing by, ready to go.
Trent, having the PAs in the car doesn't do you any good. Do they know where they're going?
Toxie. I told them just to get green food coloring and Troma sauce. I did not tell them what store to go to.
Okay, well, that's what you have to do. See, that's why I'm the director.
I wrote this picture, Dead Girl. I met a couple guys who were a team, and they were directors and producers. It was shot with the Viper system, with a tapeless HD system. It was kind of experimental. As producers, these guys went out. They said, hey, look at this new technology. Perhaps we can talk to them and get a break in order to, you know, to proselytize for their technology. And as a result, it cost them a lot less for the camera package and you know, for the equipment to shoot the picture. We went and we secured a location somewhere out in the desert. Fundamentally, they thought they had everything all squared away. It's supposed to be a state-owned location, which means we get it for really cheap. Lo and behold, we arrive with our trailers and everything like that, and all of a sudden we find out that yes, it's state-owned and it's co-owned with a private guy. The private guy shows up. He's like, the state never got a hold of me about this. You're going to have to pay me XX amount. By that time, it was like extortion. We were already out there with our cast, our crew, our trailers, our equipment. There was nothing we could do. We ended up paying a lot more for the location than we originally had planned for it. Locations will do that to you all the time. You have to try to get the tightest location contracts you can because they will tell you that you can do whatever. They'll give you the moon, and then once you show up, they will try to stick you for every penny they possibly can.
Talk a bit about how Troma produces, the good and bad.
What's good about Troma and what's good about working for you, Lloyd, is that you really you instill in all of us the value of the dollar, and you know what can be achieved for very little with just a little bit of spit and perseverance and determination. Things can get done. You said, Trent, this is going to be the biggest Toxic Avenger ever. I'm going to write me a script that's going to be $3 million. And so I wrote you a script that had multiple characters, full makeup and car chases, exploding school and time travel, M60 machine guns, and it was, you know, over the top. And then eventually, when the numbers came down, it was like, well, okay, we have a fraction of that amount of money to shoot this. But you didn't say, hey, let's take out the car chase. It was like, okay, now we've been given a number. Now we need to figure out how to achieve the car chase, how to achieve the school explosion. You know, certainly if I was in Hollywood, I'd be like, let's build a big edifice and get a bunch of TNT and an explosives expert and blow it up. But as you and I both know, and anybody who watched the documentary knows, we simply took a photo, put it in a wooden box, filled it up with gasoline and firecrackers, put it on a C-stand, did a forced perspective shot, and, you know, for $10 we achieved what Michael Bay might be able to do for 250 grand. As far as the bad goes, you know, I think that it's part of the magic of what makes a Lloyd Kaufman movie, but it's part of what makes it frustrating and things drag on a little bit is kind of not, you know, having a scene. We come in and we kind of set it up, and then we don't exactly know how we're going to shoot it.
We've been doing this now. This is the third day. And it's the same story. We're not learning. We're not learning. We're not getting better. We're not getting better. We should get better. We should improve.
We got everything. We have
We should be thinking ahead. We are not thinking ahead. We are not thinking ahead. Now, for example, is there not going to be blood? Is the blood boy here with the blood? There's no blood yet, Lloyd. Well, there may be blood, though. Think ahead. Have it standing by. So we don't have to stop and ask for the blood.
Everyone in the room.
Think ahead. That's all I'm suggesting.
You were absolutely right, Lloyd. Can we do the take? Can we rehearse?
Yes, rehearse it in slow motion.
Okay.
The great artistic aspect of it comes from thinking on the fly.
We should be thinking ahead. We are not thinking ahead.
and experimenting, but it also kind of costs time and money and effort when we're uncertain as to how we're going to proceed. We know where the scene is, but we don't know exactly where we're going to place the camera, how long we're going to run it, how many inserts we're going to get. We would show up and we would have a 12-hour day that could possibly go into 14 or maybe 16. From a producer's standpoint, it's not necessarily, that's the kind of thing that'll give a producer nightmares. You don't go SAG with the Troma movies. The fact of the matter is that if you went SAG and you had the large cast that you do, Troma movies are very rambunctious and high in spirit, and they have a lot of characters. And so, look, if you hired SAG people and you had all the speaking parts that you normally do in a movie, it would end up costing you a lot of money. I am an actor. I've acted in a lot of movies, and I've never been in SAG. So I think that, Lloyd, you're actually probably doing the right thing. There's great talent to be had out there, and a lot of acting cannot be taught. And acting doesn't come with a SAG card and vice versa. Every waiter and bartender has a SAG card, but does that mean they're necessarily more talented than somebody that you would find that was just a huge Troma fan? I don't really think so. But what they will do is they'll cost you a daily minimum. I think that the best tools for me as a producer, well, first of all, was having a guy like you who would take someone who was untested and lump as much responsibility on their back as possible. The man is insane. The man we work for is crazy. He, you know, I mean, look, I admit we don't have our shit together at times, but he assumes that everything was totally gloom and doom and we're totally fucked. Maybe the most important thing for me was having written, having acted, having PA'd, having done craft service, having a general knowledge. The best way to be a producer is to have the best general knowledge of every aspect of filmmaking that you possibly can. And that way, when a guy comes to you and he's like, you know what, this stinger is going to cost you XX amount, you say, fuck you, man, I'm going to go to Home Depot and I'll get a stinger because they're on sale for $3.99, because you know what a stinger is. It's a series of checks and balances trying to get a movie made, and the best way to understand it is to try to do as much as you can in every other position.